You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our spoiler-free analysis of Season 2, Episode 8, which is called Women's Work. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Marigold.
Hi, I'm Julia.
And I'm Kate. So this episode starts with them putting a Commodore's record on the record player, and they're playing Easy Like Sunday Morning. And we learn that June and Serena are now a team of sorts. As much as I hate Serena, I love Lizzie and Yvonne together. Like, I realized from this scene that I just really want to see them in another movie where they're like a team. I do enjoy them together.
We got voiceovers back.
And you have voiceovers back, yep. And June asks her if she missed working. And I was surprised Serena didn't at least admit that much, but she did at least admit that she despises knitting. And June was delighted with that revelation. And then June compliments her writing, and Serena says she won't forget her health, which I don't even buy for 1 minute. But she says it's ready to go to the hospital in the morning. So apparently Fred's in on their scheme, right? And he's supporting and signing their documents, I guess. And Serena pops their lovely dream bubble by saying that Fred's coming home tomorrow. And June's like, obviously, immediately very sad. Notes on that scene?
June said that maybe they could have been colleagues. And I just thought that they probably lived a very similar life pre-Gilead. Like, they're probably like the same socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
June was an editor. Serena was a writer. So
right.
Like,
it goes together so well that
like even in the episode about breakfast that you guys were talking about, the breakfast place, they were like, oh, maybe we'll go into
Magnolias.
Magnolias.
You can see that they would work well together, and it is a shame that we're not watching that world.
I mean, they've always been kind of parallels, like always, like mirroring each other, even until the end of season 4.
They flop back and forth. Sometimes work together, and then it immediately turns back into battling each other. And it's fascinating dynamic. And I'm glad that we got to see this. I really love the scene of them working together, even though it was briefer than I would have liked. I might have liked to see like more of an episode about that before the bubble is burst, but I do love it. Great writing.
It's ironic though that they're kind of similar in a way, because they're both strong women, similar independent women, even though we know Serena has another type of belief, but in Gilead she was strong and she was fierce and she was sort of independent, and June was a little bit more meek, pre-Gilead, and then how in Gilead, those things kind of, it's interesting.
It's hard for me to reconcile this Serena that we see with somebody that would really want women not to work. It's super fascinating to look at and try to analyze, because it's clearly just so important to her soul. She's intelligent and she's a leader, and it's crazy to think that she'd ever have not realized how important that was in her life.
Yeah, like it's strange because she was always talking about this fulfilling your biological destiny stuff as a woman. But I don't live in America, so I don't know how you guys are like living with work-life balance, like as working mothers. But
what's it like?
I don't know
Germany?
how. I mean, it's not bad, I guess. Yeah, we have options.
Do you guys get better maternity leave than we do?
Oh yeah, we have like 6 weeks before birth, 8 weeks after birth, and then you have
you get before birth. Wow.
Yeah, so you get like 14 weeks in total, even more if it's not full-term pregnancy. And after these 8 weeks, you can get parental leave for up to 3 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Where they hold your job, you mean? So you might not get paid,
yeah,
but they
like
hold your job?
actually your employer is needs to hold your job if you decide to take.
So when I heard the UK did that for a year, I was like stunned. But you do it for 3 years in Germany?
Yeah,
wow.
you can get
awesome.
up to, like, both parents can get 3 years until, like,
both parents. What?
Fathers and
it's
mothers.
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
God. I had no idea.
I mean, but financially, you need to
Of
think
course.
about it because
Yeah.
because like it's just like for the first 14 months, I think. Like there's some weird rules, but like it's 67% of your salary for the first 14 months.
Okay.
Jesus. Wow.
And after it's a little less.
Well, even the holding the job thing is enormous, because here in America, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you have a like really sick baby that has to be in the hospital for a year, they're not going to hold your job. What do you have? 12 weeks maybe? Then you're just on your own. You're going to lose your job.
Not every company has to follow that. They have to have more than 50 employees, and the employee has to work for the employer for over a year. So
for the 12 weeks, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah. So I work in HR. I deal with FMLA all the time. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's sad, but
that's brutal. Okay. So then then you see the car pull up, and Nick gets out of the passenger side, by the way, to open the door for Fred. So I don't know who's been driving. We've been talking about this recently on recent podcasts, because he's not been driving. Like, they've been appearing places that Nick hasn't driven them, and we can't figure out who's driving them. But once again, I believe that Nick is not driving unless he scooched over and got out the wrong door. And he opens the door for Fred, who steps out, and you flash inside, and Serena's getting the household ready to greet him and line up, and June's being her rebellious self on the stairs, looking pissed off, and she's like, "Oh, Fred." So she comes down and gets in line. And then when Fred comes in, he gives like Serena a hug that made me like, I was like, that's weird. It seems very weird for the two of them to hug.
Yeah.
And then, he greets everybody, and Eden gives him a gift. What is that? Just a handkerchief? Or
yeah,
did we ever find out? Okay.
It was very awkward.
It's so strange.
Well, she was just, you could tell, like, afterwards, she was like, do you think you liked it? Like,
she's such a child.
Yeah, she's such she's a teenager. I would have done the same thing, but it's just so awkward.
I know.
Weird. Yeah.
I feel terrible for her. She just wants somebody to like her, and she's coming up short. So then June manages to like spit out the words she's supposed to say, and then immediately departs, and like you said, Eden's like, "Hey, do you think you liked the gift?" And she's like, "What?" Yeah,
the eye roll.
Yeah, like everybody was delighted. Even Rita was like, "Oh, I will prepare all your favorite dishes." Then this little gift from Eden, and June is just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
We had this beautiful household managed by just women, like, and Nick, but he's a feminist, so I will not count him. And then he's like, Fred's back, and it's like, so like June is so pissed. I love it.
And I was wondering how long it is, and then later on, when Serena's talking to Fred, she says, like, we've been doing this for months. So,
oh really?
That's what she says.
Oh,
so
she does. I figured it was weeks.
That's what I thought. So I rewound to listen, because I was like, it must have been weeks, and I was just like zoned out. But no, she says months. So then Serena walks Fred into his office and shows him his work and schedule. And Fred says, "You've taken so many risks for me. I can't thank you enough," and then like dismisses her and walks her out. Actually, first she puts the pin back in its place, which was weird to me, because if he knew, maybe somehow it implied that June was working with her and he didn't know that. I don't know. She puts the pin back in its place, and then he escorts her out of the office and shuts the door after her. He's so awful.
It's obvious he's not going to give her that power again.
No,
she had that power before Gilead, and he's not going to allow her to, and her face was just like, the reality of this is not going to work out.
No, it sucks. And it's so crazy because when you see the flashbacks, like, I mean, I still hate him, but he really loves her and she's, you know, the alpha, like we've said a lot of times. And it's just crazy for him to then like be so power hungry that he just turns on her 100%.
I think in part it was her fault. I think she pushed him.
Yeah.
You know, I think that scene in the hospital when she tells him be a man, I think that was a turning point for Fred.
Yeah, that's a good point. So then June returns to her room and she finds a white rose in the music box on the bed. And it's a good thing she had a voiceover again, or I would have been like, what is that? The white rose feels more like a Fred thing, I guess, is why I was like, but she says, it was nice working with you too. So then we know that this was a message from Serena. Thank you.
Wasn't there like earlier, I think in season 1, when they were hoping for her to be pregnant, there was like a rose on the table?
Oh, also a white rose,
Because like things always mean something in Gilead, like what they are.
When did she take the music box back? After she was kidnapped? Oh, when they cleaned out the room.
When she bared the room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Everything was gone. Okay, so because I was like looking up the, as we said, like the symbolism of these white rose gift. Because I was like, why is it a white rose? And because like I was also taken aback, as Marigold just said, because June also got a white rose when everybody thought she was pregnant, and I was like, why is it a white rose again? So like, what's the meaning behind that? So I was looking up the symbolism, or like this, what a white rose means. Actually, the most common meaning for a white rose is like just for purity or youthful innocence, but it can also mean deep, strong love. But it doesn't really fit for this occasion, I think. Like, so I digged a little deeper. It can also mean that it's an intention of honesty and acknowledging the powerful bond between two individuals and their ultimate trust for each other.
Oh, that is fitting.
So I was like, so they have been in this
for a minute.
In this they broke the law together. They have been doing this together. And so it's like, okay, this is the ultimate form of trust in Gilead, is like breaking the law together. And for Serena to acknowledge that to June, that she enjoyed doing that, I thought it was pretty nice gesture.
Then we're in Eden's apartment and Nick comes in and Eden seems really happy that Fred's back, and now Nick can spend more time with her, and he's quick to correct her that I'm going to be gone even more now.
I just wrote here, I was like, Nick just wants to die. So like, what can I say so that I don't have to be here more? Yeah,
which sucks because he has nowhere to be now. Like his home is not, and it sucks for her
and
too.
He tries.
I'm not saying it doesn't. Yeah.
He tries to be nice, but it's just it's
awkward.
Really. So she suggests sprucing up the house and asks what colors he likes, and says her favorite's yellow, and he's like, perfect. He says, whatever you want. That scene, actually, that like little, like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds as he's leaving the door is almost like the rudest I've ever seen Nick in my life. He just can't act. I don't know. He's saying nice things, I suppose, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's not selling
like,
it.
Push and pull of like him being like somewhat nice, but not nice enough for her to believe that he loves her.
Right.
You know, like it's just
he doesn't want to have sex with her. He doesn't want her to, you know, it's very like tough line to walk without. I couldn't do it either, but obviously it just sucks for everybody. And so she says praise be, and he says and like rolls his eyes as he walks out the door.
She says something like happy home, happy husband, something like that.
Yeah, she does say that. Her mom taught her that.
And he like laughs like, okay, and then he like runs out the door.
It's just I mean, it's like uncomfortable to share this room, this apartment.
And it's a small home to begin
with. It has been like his, or like not just his, but like June's also, like place of escape.
Yeah.
And then there's this girl who's an intruder of not just the room, but like the whole life.
Right.
And
it's
yeah,
so uncomfortable. It's very well written because I'm so uncomfortable with all of it.
It's also dangerous because we don't know if he's Mayday or Resistance. We don't know that yet. I mean, it's been slightly hinted. So what if he has like Mayday stuff and Eden's there? Like it's also dangerous. Also, is this the scene where Eden hands him like the cigarette?
Oh yeah, she does hand him cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember in the past recording, Violet was wondering what kind of pack cigarettes he was smoking. So I paid attention, and they're white with a kind of green stripe. So I wanted to see if I could figure out what they were. I think they're Pall Mall. Okay. Yeah, that's what I think they are. They're definitely not Marlboros because that's what I smoke. They're not those. So
well, thank you for doing that research, smoking for us, so we can rule that out. He's clearly irritated by her existence, and she looks so sad, and she's about to cry. I mean, she basically is crying, I guess, when the scene leaves her. And maybe that's why you shouldn't marry teenagers to strangers or anyone at all. And it flashes to Rita, and she's even complaining about Eden because Eden borrowed the honey, and she knows she'll never see it again. I think June says something like she's trying so hard. And then Serena comes down and tells June that baby Angela isn't well. So June's walking when Janine joins her, and so she does the typical "Blessed be the fruit" greeting, and Janine says, "May the force be with you." I love Janine. And starts reminiscing about being pregnant with Charlotte and making a joke about Alien, and it's just cute. I like their friendship because like Janine is, you know, a little bit crazy, but June's found this like soft spot for her, and she's happy to have her back, but she doesn't want to tell her about the baby, obviously.
I like the references, you know, the modern time references they did in this episode. It's sad, and it's cool to see. It's sad because it just shows that it's kind of present time, so it could be our time,
right?
But it's kind of, I don't know, it's funny though.
I feel like Zane, our friend Zane, got them to put the Alien reference in there.
Yeah. I could totally relate to that statement.
And Star Wars.
I mean, everybody, like we all can, I guess.
It's much fresher in your mind. Julia just had her baby, and we're so excited. By the way, where is she?
She's sleeping.
Fair.
And Dave is on duty, but I'm pretty sure she will wake up and get hungry while we record. So
let's hope so.
You can see her.
And then at the market, Alma starts asking about Fred being back, and Janine brags about her new posting. It's just a ceremony, no blowjobs. It's truly a blessing from God. And oh my God, Janine. And Emily is just like as angry as ever, which is totally fair and correct. And she says that being raped is not a blessing, and anyone helping Gilead deserves to be blown apart. I'm only grateful for that bomb. She's extra angry. And June ponders whether Emily would blame her for helping Serena, would want her dead. Stay in Gilead long enough and it starts to eat you from the inside out. It's one of the things they do. They force you to kill within yourself, which we see.
That's a great line.
Every episode for 4 seasons. But yes, it sums it up perfectly. Then there's some sort of alarm going off that makes everyone freak out. Were you guys like caught off guard? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. The first time?
Yeah. Is there a tornado coming? What is that? Then you hear like people whispering babies, and you see this ambulance with something on it identifies it as a baby ambulance.
It was strange.
Yes.
I was like, what's that? It looks like a safety pin and a cross and a heart rate curve. And it was like, what?
It was really interesting that they devote an entire ambulance to only babies.
I would just say when we see an ambulance at some point, again, there's the same cross with the heart rate, but without the safety pin. So this is probably for normal
Maybe it's just a safety pin magnet that they slap on.
But what does the safety pin indicate with babies?
Like, diaper? The diaper?
Yeah. It is. Okay. There's a reason. Old school diapers, I know, have those. But wouldn't it be funny if it really was just like a magnet they slap on there, the safety pin magnet to identify the baby? That would be much more practical than having the entire ambulance for the baby.
But I guess if you think about it, like maybe the ambulance has like specialized medical equipment for babies.
It's true.
So.
And there's a lot of baby health problems. So all right. I accept the baby ambulance. So they're on their knees, and then Brianna says, I heard it was baby Angela, which is kind of cold of her, considering Janine's right in front of her.
Yeah.
And Janine starts freaking out and standing up, and June's like, whoever's baby it is, I think we should just pray, and gets her down on her knees. And June's just trying to manage Janine's, reaction from this point forth. And when they're walking out, Janine's still freaking out, and she does like pull her aside, and she tells her, and the Guardians are being very patient with June's like, I got this, back off. Janine asks if Janine says she wants to see the baby. And does June at first say that can't happen? Like, that can't happen. Okay. And then she says, like, you sound like them, which is kind of what her voiceover was implying earlier about helping Serena.
That's just her learning that she has to play that game in order to get ahead in Gilead. She has to become like them.
Right.
That's what I got with that line.
Then June's watching the music box ballerina with the Hannah picture, and Serena knocks on the door, and June asks about Angela, and Serena says she's not doing so well. They don't know what's wrong with her, but she keeps getting worse. And it turns out Serena is in here simply to ask for June's opinion on something. And June's shocked, much like myself. She wants to know if she said that there's somebody that can help, but it's against the laws in Gilead because it's a woman who is now a Martha. She was formerly the leading neonatologist in the country. And June says, if it were me, I would do anything for my baby.
Like a validation. Don't you think that she was kind of looking for June's, like some sort of validation, not maybe June, but like I think Serena needs a lot of validation as well. And that's the vibe I got with that scene. It's still weird.
I mean, I think Serena, throughout this whole thing with baby Angela, she's thinking about her baby, like she's putting herself in Naomi's shoes. And what would she do? Like any mother, I think they would do anything to save their baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is difficult for me, though, when she can't do that for June asking to see Hannah. It really frustrates me because just take 1 second and think about that as your child. Anyway, she empathizes when she chooses to. So then Serena goes to ask Fred. Serena brings Fred tea, broaches the Angela topic, and says, there is hope. God has blessed Gilead with one of the top neonatologists in the world. And Fred asks when he can get here. And Serena drops the gender bomb. He is a she now, serving as a Martha. And Fred's so good at it. Joseph Fiennes is so good at his like creepy face. His face only in this show. I love your face otherwise, Joseph Fiennes. But it's just like the expressions on Fred's they're so good. And he says, I'm sure our physicians are capable, meaning our male physicians. And it's just like, how could you, I said this earlier, but how did you turn from like loving husband in flashbacks to this monster this soulless monster that's remaining?
I like how we automatically assumed that it was a man because obviously he turned total misogyny, like Fred. And you can see that he's not going to allow ever a woman to have any sort of power, ever again. Right. Because he can't.
Well, he won't. Then June sees Serena in the kitchen and one look at her and she knows that Fred said no. Serena says all we can do now is pray for the baby and her parents. And June says, I can't imagine how they must feel facing the death of the baby. And then she tells her that the former handmaid, Janine, is freaking out. She heard the rumors and asks her if she could please get her to see the baby. And Serena is immediately like dismissive. No, that's not possible. But for once, she gets through to her because the next scene is Serena talking to Naomi. And Naomi is also another person similar to Fred that's just like so good at this part that I can't stand her. And obviously Ever is an amazing, like delightful, nice human being. But
I love how like instant her reaction was. She said that horrid. Not even like pause and think like, take a minute.
No.
He's like, no.
And the disgust on her face is like perfect. Yeah. It's just like, oh. And and Serena says she brings only love, and Warren walks up and says he thinks God would want us to welcome her. It couldn't do any harm. which is a bold move for Warren, considering where they all three left each other with the blowjob accusations, losing his arm. Like, I'm pretty surprised he would speak up in defense of Janine, but he did. And apparently it's happening because Aunt Lydia steps off the elevator with Janine next and pulls June aside to lecture her. And she seems to really care about Janine here. She calls her Janine here. She says, if this breaks her, I will hold it personally against you. I like June's response because she says, I will too, because she will. You know that she'll hold it. You know she'll not be able to live with herself if this does break Janine. Then they go to the babies in an incubator, and Janine is crying and talking about her curly hair. And Serena says, I'm coming out to see if there's anything more they can tell us. And then the guardians are walking Martha up the stairs. So you know that she did bring the female doctor in. So the doctor, the Martha's coming up the stairs. She goes to change, and the male doctor that's been handling this case is like fangirling all over her and just like, I'm so honored to see you. You probably don't even remember the one time we met. You trained the person that trained me. So you can just tell that like she's very well respected above the doctor that's handling this right now. And Serena's like, all right, enough of that. Just let's get to it. And he gives her all the case information. She orders a bunch of tests, and she says, I'm going to need to examine the child. And there's this whole big moment of handing her the stethoscope, which is like interesting also because like the pen has been so symbolic recently, and the instruments of these women's professions.
It's interesting. The doctor, she also like looks at Serena like for confirmation that she can do this. It kind of feels like, I mean, literally breaking the law, and I think she like validation. Because
even after he gave her all the case notes, I think is when she says, and I'm here for, because she wanted Serena to like acknowledge that this is actually what they're asking her to do.
But the emotion in the Martha's face is, it's really compelling when you watch it, because she's about to go back to what she used to do in her life before she was brushed off to be a Martha. I mean, it's a very touching moment, like really sad.
Did this changes of the work that actually women do now, opposed to what they used to do before Gilead happened?
For her to be making bread from scratch as opposed to saving babies that they claim to care about. But anyway, it flashes to Fred coming up to June's room creepily, knock, knock, and he finds it empty. And he finds a music box in the rose, and I believe somehow puts together that they've been working together through that and is not happy. I'm glad that June wasn't there, because what was he expecting of her? I don't even want to know.
Maybe he wanted to ask why she was so cold towards him.
Then the male doctor is updating the Putnams, and Ever becomes angry. You're just watching from the room where June and Janine and Lydia are. So clearly it's not good news. And Aunt Lydia says, verily I say unto thee, today shall be with me in paradise. Meaning the baby's dying if we didn't get it already. And Janine's like breaking, and June asks if she'd like to kiss her goodbye, and says that she'll try, which is a bold ask. I wouldn't have offered that to her until I knew if she could do it, because I can't imagine them letting her, right? Serena accosts the female doctor in the stairwell and she says there's no medical reason for her condition. All they can do is unhook those machines and help her feel safe and warm and pray. And they let Janine in to say goodbye, and everybody's in all this gear, and Janine starts to take hers off because she's the real mom and she cares about the baby, I mean, she believes that the baby's dying, I imagine, but she wants to be as close as possible. And then June and Serena go home. They're going to go to bed. It's clearly very late at night, and Nick comes out and tells them the commander wants to see both of them in his office. And as they cross the room, they hold hands briefly as they pass, which is sweet, because I feel like these touches between them give each other like strength, even though they last for half a second. And who knows what Fred has in store for them. And then Fred confronts them in the office about bringing in the female doctor, and says he was surprised to hear they had help from a Martha, and even more surprised that he signed the order. Serena says that it was for the baby, and this is where she points out that they've been doing it for months with his permission. And he's just like, I didn't give you permission for this. And
his line was, I really like this line. He said, I asked you to be my conduit, not my voice.
Yeah. There's so many good lines in this episode. I love it.
he asks, what's the biggest responsibility in Gilead, when Serena is referring to the children. And Fred says, obeying your husband.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, I really like
the episode is so misogynistic. It's so bad. It's bad in that sense, it's just, it's really good to see, but because it's really hard to watch this next scene.
Yeah. He reads a Bible verse about wives obeying their husbands and pulls a chair out, implying that Serena needs to walk over and bend over. And then he takes off his belt, and we hear him hit her 13 times. And in the Bible, I think it's 39 lashes for... my biblical knowledge is not enough for this show.
And I think in Jewish times it was 39, and they believed that 40 would cost you death. And then the Romans changed it because they added, instead of one whole whip, it had 3 pieces. And it also had pieces of stone and metal to create more damage. And therefore 13 times 3 equals 39.
39.
Well, that's lovely.
But I mean, the number 13 is, I have something about the number 13. But what I wanted to say about the Bible verse, like, it's not one whole Bible verse. He used 2 Bible verses. Ephesians 5:22. That's the one that says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands and as to the Lord. And Peter 3:7. And ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. So he had to mesh those 2 together to justify him disciplining his wife. And it's just religious justification. And in the Bible, it said that you're supposed to, the man is the head of the house, just like God is the head of the church. So it's in the man's place to be able to have his house in order. And that's what Gilead believes. And that includes disciplining the wife. I researched a little bit about it, and there's some people that say that, the Bible doesn't really say hitting. But I mean, I could go, there's verses that say that they do, or you can imply that they do, or you can interpret that they do. And then the other halves of these verses don't really, they just say that you're supposed to respect your wife, but it's still submitting your wife under you. So that's basically what it is. And that's basically what Gilead is about. And 13 in the Bible means rebellion and lawlessness, and it represents also Satan, of course. And one thing that caught my attention was in Mark 7, Jesus mentions 13 things that defile a person. And those 13 things are adulteries, fornications, evil thoughts, murders, covetousness, thefts, wickedness, licentiousness. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. Guile, blasphemy, foolishness, pride, and an evil eye. And I think Fred Waterford checks all 3 of them.
Sounds like it.
I mean, even if you just also think about like Jesus and his followers, they are all also like 13 people.
Yeah, the 13 is a big number, the world and the Bible. Also, he's hitting her really hard. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Fred would have beat June if she wasn't pregnant?
No, I think he wanted to make Serena feel inferior, like take her down to June's level.
I think that's what he did, try to break them apart, because obviously we know in this episode we see how good can women work together, and when they team up the things that they can actually achieve. So that's not good for men, or for men like Fred. So that's exactly what he did. He humiliated Serena in front of June. Serena's supposed to have power over June.
Right.
And even when he asks June, is this your handwriting? June is standing behind Serena. And what she does is she walks a few steps and she stands next to Serena. And they're equals in that moment. They're equals. And she says, yes. So he just decided to break that. And he also wanted Serena to know, like I said earlier, you're not going to have your voice. I didn't ask you to be my voice. Like, Serena's not supposed to have a voice. She's not supposed to have power. So he made sure to remind her of that in that moment.
And he succeeded in breaking them apart, because when June goes to console Serena, she reverts back to her this episode, Mrs. Waterford, bitchy. So he succeeded very quickly in his goals. After the lashing scene, it flashes to Nick coming into his apartment. And as usual, Eden's super happy to see him. She's cleaned the apartment and she wants to make curtains, and she asks him to pick a color. And he nicely picks yellow. for her.
Yeah.
She's like, oh,
So he listens to her at least,
Yes.
even though he's a little like pretty cold and ignorant, but at least he actually listens.
He does the little, what he can.
Yeah.
So he says yellow, and she says, oh, it's my favorite. It's like, yeah, I know. And she says she straightened out the clothes in his trunk, and he's not being like rude at all yet.
No, before, like this little interaction, like is probably the sweetest interaction they've had so far.
Yeah. And so she then says that she's straightened out his clothes and his chest, and he sits down and he realizes, he looks and he sees the letters on the side table, the Jezebel letters that he taken from June when she was burning them in the sink, and he gets angry. It's the first time we see him angry. I don't know, has he been angry in the show before?
I mean
he's fought back at the Globe. But not like this. This is different.
But not like the way
threatening.
like threatening angry. But I mean, it's totally understandable for me. I know that there's a lot of backlash like for Nick in this scene, because he's really not nice to Eden and threatens her, but his life is on the line here.
Not just his, the whole house. I mean,
June's as well.
June's is probably what he's the most scared about. But he gets angry. He's, where did you get these? Did you read them? And warns her not to ever touch her things. Makes her say she understands, and she even calls him sir. And he's still like clearly upset and worried. But like you said, if she tells anyone about those letters, they're dead. They're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big deal. Do you guys think she read them? Like, of course she read them. Really?
I don't think she did. I don't think so, because
I guess she's a true believer.
The way that I read this scene, like I saw this scene like 3 times yesterday, and I had discussed this scene with Melissa like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he's upset. Like he seems shocked when he sees the letters. Like obviously, fuck. And when he gets close to her, the music is tense. Like it's not usually that creepy music that sometimes we get. Like I heard it differently. And I think that he gets close to her, and I know it looks threatening the way that it was shot, but he's looking at her to see if she read the letters. If Eden would have read those letters, he would have known, because Eden is a true believer.
Yeah.
And those letters were all accounts of women and the horrible things that Gilead does. So he would have known if she would have read the letters.
Yeah,
and
she couldn't have hid that.
That scene where he asked her, that part where he asks, do you understand? And she says slowly, yes. And then he's like, what? And she's like, yes, I understand, sir. I also think that maybe that's the only way that he can get her to understand, because he can't sit her down and be like, yo, this is the deal. Like Eden is a true believer. She expects to be fearful of men. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the only maybe way that he thought in the moment that he could get to her. But then he looks to the side, realizing what he did, and he walks away. And when he sits, he can't even look at her. Yeah. So I do think that he knows that he maybe crossed the line. I think if they wanted to show him to be like patriarchal, just like Fred had been in the scene before, I think he would have raised his voice a little bit more. And I think they would have shown us a little bit more of that. That was my take on that scene.
I think at one point read some script notes about this scene, and it says that Nick is supposed to be really regretful about the way he needs to talk to her, like to be the head of the house, like the head of the house, the man of the house, to actually be not this nice guy he usually is, but to use his position as a man and as the head of the household and as his husband to make her obey. But he's definitely not enjoying doing that. No, definitely I'm on your side in this.
Yeah, I don't think she read the letters, and I think from her perspective, he thinks that Nick is getting mad because she read, and women aren't supposed to read. Nick wouldn't care if it was just regular writing that she read, but since it's so sensitive, that's why he was upset. So I think in her mind, he's mad because she just read something.
I think that one of the reasons that people reacted to Nick in the scene is because he's such a nice guy, and I don't know that they realize that, and that it's so out of character.
What do you guys think that he, that gesture that he does when he touches the letters?
I think he holds them very like gingerly because he knows like how important they are.
There's all these women's stories. He's protecting them. He's protecting these women. He's protecting June. I think it's a protective gesture myself.
Yeah.
Maybe also, I don't know. I also kind of read it as kind of it's like a treasure some sort.
Yeah.
It's like a bomb. It's like, you know,
it goes to pow.
Yeah, and maybe also I felt like he's thinking about what to do with them now.
Right.
He's contemplating where it's too dangerous.
All right. Then we go to Serena undressing in her room. She's clearly in a lot of pain. And there's marks all over her thighs. She's crying. June knocks on the door and asks, she's trying to be there for her and asks if she can do anything for her. And Serena just orders her back to her room. So you can tell that she's going to go back to being bitchy Mrs. Waterford. And her crying silently, like Yvonne's acting is amazing. I love that. It's a great scene. I'm totally pissed at Serena for letting Fred do what he did to them and divide them, but here we are. And June says, someone once said that men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them. We should have known better. I thought that there were still secret places hidden in the cracks and crevices of this world, places we could make beautiful, peaceful, quiet, safe, or at least bearable. That's from Margaret Atwood. That's a Margaret Atwood quote, and it's perfect timing. And it also actually reminds me of Nick's apartment, because it used to be that for them too. That used to be their like hidden space that was peaceful, quiet, safe, and they've lost that too. So at this moment in time, there's nothing. And so she goes to Fred's office because she's trying to find a space where she can gain some power and safety. Mm-hmm. And she comes to apologize and manipulate. It's very clear, like immediately. And he doesn't buy it either.
He doesn't even open the door the whole way.
Yeah, right.
He bought it.
What? You think he bought it?
I think he bought it. He was just mad, but I think he bought it. That's what he likes, for women to, she went and she apologized and, she knew that's what she had to do to, like, she doesn't have an ally in Serena anymore. So now she has to fucking go back to Fred and humiliate herself. Like, I think he bought it because he didn't open the door, I just think he was mad and trying to act like all fucking tough.
I don't think he bought it. And that's why when he shut the door, she like breaks down because she's got nobody now. But it's interesting.
I think she bought it because when she turns around, she smiles and then she breaks down. And I think she breaks down because she realizes that she's still able to manipulate him. And now she has to literally go back to Fred and do all the fucking shitty shit she has to do in order to have some sort of upper hand. That's why I think
I can see it that way too.
But I can be wrong.
And then he plays, what does he put on the record player? I meant to look this up. Does anybody?
It's a really creepy song.
It is.
It's called Rain Sometimes, yeah. It says Rain Sometimes playing. Singing continues in garbled voice.
Then we're back in the hospital room, but it's bright with morning sun. It was kind of like jarring after these dark scenes and uncomfortable scenes to be in the super bright white hospital room with Janine singing, "It happens to be true, I only want to be with you." And it's a very slow reveal. Like, you see Aunt Lydia wake up first, you hear Janine singing, and they very slowly get to coming around into the window so you can see her. Because the first time I saw it, I thought that the baby had died overnight probably, and Janine was being Janine or something. But as it turns out, the baby is like cured. The baby is super happy. Yeah. And it's the sweetest scene because Janine's in her underwear, her hair is down, she looks beautiful, and the baby's like so happy, and all the baby needed was her mom.
Janine was like the only one to give her that like skin
back,
even after like they said that there wasn't anything else they could do for her.
It's like, I don't get it. Like, why didn't, I mean, it's common knowledge that human touch and closeness is the best you can do for sick kids or babies or whatever. Like when, like, especially for me, like this incubator scene, like hit like super hard because that what I saw when I went to visit my daughter, because she was in the children's IUC. She was not in an incubator, but her neighbor baby was in an incubator because she was like had a way worse condition than our daughter. But the first thing they said, okay, let's like the doctors and the nurses was like, okay, let's get you in the seats and we put your daughter on your naked chest because that will help her. That's the first thing they told us. Yeah.
Gilead they do everything wrong.
It's like just I don't know. It's just like so sterile, like clean and dead,
fake and dead inside.
Yeah.
You know, Naomi's been annoyed every time you hear her talk about the baby.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I literally think every time we've heard her talk about the baby, she's been annoyed. So, why do they want babies?
Because it's status.
I understand also that like Naomi and Warren were probably exhausted, but like if that was my child and my baby was dying, like I wouldn't fall asleep. Like I would be holding that baby all night. Like I know that of course they let Janine.
Well, honestly, the fact that they let Janine hold her means I don't understand them. That's all. You know, same thing you just said. That's your last night with the baby. I'm glad that you did because she deserves it more. But you know, your selfishness and such. If you really cared about this baby, you would have been holding it. But it all worked out for the best because Janine saved her baby. And that's how the episode ends. And I like how she, Maddie's singing over the credits too, because I'm hearing her. I love her. Okay, so I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis of season 2, episode 8 of The Handmaid's Tale. If you're a longtime fan, come join us on Wednesday for our deep dive into the same episode. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's her day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.